So a lot of you saw that viral video from Renee Fleming talking specifically about the problems with singers going into higher ed. But many people missed the commentary just a few minutes later in that same symposium with Dr. Robert Sataloff. Now, if you don't know who he is, you should. If you're a singer, if you're a voice teacher, you should know about this fellow because he is the chairman of the board for the Voice Foundation and probably the world's most respected otolaryngologist. And he specializes in training, specializes in working with professional voice users. So this is the man who is probably at the apex of the field in caring for and thinking about singing athletes, the singing voice. So here's something really important he had to say at that same conversation, that same symposium where Renee Fleming made those now viral comments on colleges and universities.
I'm going to bring up the issue of singing teachers because the non-singing teachers in the room probably don't know what it takes to be a singing teacher, and you should. We think, to be a doctor you have to go to medical school and you have to do an internship and a residency. To be a speech language pathologist, you have to get training. In last count that I knew was 37 states, you needed a license. In order to be a singing teacher, you have to hang out a shingle. That's it. If you suddenly discover that people will pay $100 for a 45-minute session in cash in New York, you just hang up a shingle and pocket the cash. You get a little comfort if somebody happens to be a member of NATS, but we don't really have either any kind of test to assure that NATS members are knowledgeable or competent teachers. So I'm always a lot more comfortable when I find out somebody's in NATS. But last time I checked, there were 25,000 singing teachers in New York City. And that's it. There's no licensure. There's no formal required credentialing. There's nothing. So that there are a lot of, you talk about the universities and conservatories, and I agree with you 100%. But I think they're a drop in the bucket compared with the non-university affiliated charlatans who are taking money from students and creating voice patients.
There, right there. Taking money from students and creating voice patients. So I think it's really important at this point to not be super duper negative and to say all the things wrong about what people are doing out there, calling themselves voice teachers who are not qualified to be doing this job. But in this video, I want to talk about what makes somebody qualified. How do you know if you found one of the good ones or if you're in the studio of somebody who is one of the, as Sataloff here says, charlatans? I want to give you some advice for finding a great voice teacher. Number one, he does make a mention of NATS. NATS is the National Association of Teachers of Singing. Now, that's a good way. If your voice teacher is a member of NATS, at least you know that they pass the minimum barrier of entry to get into that professional association. Because as Dr. Sataloff said, you actually, to cut hair, need more of a credential in all 50 states in the US than you do to teach voice. And you can actually do damage. And that's what he's referring to there. So you want to make sure your teacher is qualified. So, are they a member of NATS? That's super helpful to know. Also, they should have a minimum of an undergraduate degree in music, specializing in voice. Now, that can mean they have a Bachelor of Arts in Music, which is less good than a Bachelor of Music in Music, meaning that the Bachelor of Music will give them a very specific course of study that's much more rigorous than a Bachelor of Arts. A Bachelor of Arts is meant to be a liberal arts degree, which means you have lots of other things outside of your major that you have to study to check those boxes. That said, you might find somebody with a good BA program that has study and coursework specifically in vocal pedagogy. You want to know that they know the instrument. They need to understand the anatomy, the physiology, the way the instrument works in the human body. It's the physics of sound, it's the acoustics. It's not just somebody who, as Dr. Sataloff said, hung up a shingle. You also see people in the world that are piano teachers that think they're going to make a little bit of extra money by saying, I also teach voice. Maybe, but I know of all of the voice teachers I know who are qualified, I know two or three of them that can theoretically both teach piano and voice. Voice is a very scientific, rigorous specialty, and you should be finding somebody who knows the anatomy, the physiology, and how to navigate that very specific specialty, and that they are teaching you science informed voice pedagogy, or at the very least, evidence based pedagogy. They need to know how the voice works and they need to have a background in that. So, undergraduate degree at minimum with a BA or a BM in voice specifically, and having had studies within the field of vocal pedagogy. Ideally, though, your voice teacher has a master's degree. And there are tons of people out there that have this credentialing. Make sure that your voice teacher is one of them. So, in addition to that, you also want to make sure that your voice teacher has a track record of success. So, you might get a great voice teacher coming out of undergrad or graduate school who don't have that track record yet, in which case, then you'll probably not quite pay as much money. But it is, you get what you pay for in that sense. So, you'll know that it's a good voice teacher because the product of their studio is good. And what do I mean by that? It's not just a question of finding someone with a good voice and asking them who their voice teacher is, because it's very easy to consider the fact that someone may have walked in the door good. So you want to see somebody who's made progress, gone from point A to point B in their vocal journey with their voice teacher. So they're credentialed, and they have a track record of training singers to get from point A to point B. You also want to make sure that those voice teachers are training singers in the style and the genre that you're interested in. You can find a wonderfully qualified voice teacher who really only knows how to train bel canto opera singers. So if you want somebody who is specifically working in multi-genre, you want to find a teacher who can genuinely say, I have successfully trained and can point to examples of singers in different genres that you want to study with. That's the important thing. You want to make sure that you are aiming toward a goal that that teacher knows how to get you to. And then the other thing that really matters, they can be super qualified, they can have a track record of success, but maybe it's just not a good fit and they don't know how to talk to you. So you want to make sure that it's a good fit. They make you feel nurtured and supported, and that they can help you grow specifically. Not that they can help Susie down the street grow, but that they work for you. Not all voice teachers work for everyone. And the last point I want to highly emphasize is the fact that you want to make sure that your voice teacher knows how to teach. This is a really important concept. A lot of people think that just because you can sing, you know how the voice works and you can teach other people. This is not an area of expertise wherein just because you can do it, you can show someone else how to do it. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think that's pretty true in almost any area of teaching. Just because someone can do a thing doesn't mean they can teach a thing. So, being able to do a certain skill themselves does not mean they have the ability to help you find that skill in yourself. So, not only do they need to be able to demonstrate for you, but they need to be able to give you specific applications that help you get from point A to point B. And that's a very different skill than simply being able to demonstrate and saying, copy me, show me. So, will your voice teacher have a great voice? Hopefully. At the very least, you want them to be able to demonstrate what they're asking you to do, but you want them also to be able to see how to draw that out in you. Demonstration is not the way that we teach voice writ large. It can be a nice little tool in the toolbox, but is not the only tool. So make sure when you are looking for a voice teacher, you're really thinking long and hard about what those qualifications are. You don't want to be the person that ends up in Dr. Sataloff's office.